So we'll call this a special episode of the Front Porch podcast. And I'm here with Pastor Mark Meeks of City Church.
It's special.
Special.
Yeah, thank you. It's very interesting, very unique to be on this side of the microphone. Usually I'm not on either side. I'm trying to stay away from the microphone, from the front porch.
Yes. Well, here you are. And I told you at some point you'd be back behind the microphone.
You did not tell a tale, yes.
Yeah, well, it happened sooner than I expected.
Yeah, a lot of stuff has happened sooner than we expected, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't think anybody could have expected anything that has happened in the last few months.
Yeah.
Speaking of, we're here to discuss the events of the last few weeks, kind of catalyzed more recently by the murder of George Floyd and so many others. And, you know, I guess we'll talk about how this situation that has affected not just a small community, but the whole world, and how that comes down to affect Oak Park and where we're at here today, you know, how it affects those of us who live here. So, Mark, as you suggested, where are we right now?
I like it, you know, when you go to those historic points or whatever, and you see the map, and you go up there, and it's like I'm trying to find the path of I want to get a sense of what I'm looking at and where I am, and then you see the little arrow that says you are here. We are here in the 95817, 95820. And we are, I won't say we're ground zero, but we are very much representative of everything that's going on across the country. Let me just say this. I am very proud of Oak Park, and just kind of as for context, my family moved to Oak Park in 1967 from Bakersfield, and purchased and lived on 33rd Street, right off 6th Avenue. And I went to Bret Hart, 4th and 5th grade, for my father, again, who was a prolific church planner and the first African-American licensed electrical contractor in the state of California. His was to plant churches. And so from Bakersfield to Fresno to Sacramento, he did that. And I say all that to say that's what brought our family to the Sacramento area. So I was here in 67, 68. And I remember in 4th grade on 33rd Street hearing the story of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Being assassinated. And I also remember Miss Burns, my 4th grade teacher, telling the class, giving context for what had happened. And it was, a 4th grader, I understood, but didn't really understand. But the school went out of the way really to speak to the kids. And now looking back, years later, I thought that was a really big thing, to give context, to give comfort to a very horrific event. What does that have to do with today? I and along several hundred other people, participated in the march that gathered at the community center and ended at Shiloh on Wednesday. It was nice. It was nice, not in the sense of the reason for it, but to see the community to come together the way it did to make a statement for where we're at. This is where we're at. This is where we're at. So where are we? we're at the confluence of a lot of issues that have ripped, dare I say, ripped a Band-Aid off a wound that is more than skin deep in every sense of the word. A very deep wound, cultural, race, social, economic, every metric you want to use. There's a huge wound in this country. And just in terms of Oak Park, this community I'm invested in and I love, we have a tremendous opportunity to really lead in a responsive way, to not be afraid to have those discussions, those hard discussions on issues that average person might feel very uncomfortable talking about. But we're Oak Park. We're a very diverse, resilient, strong community. And that's what makes Oak Park Oak Park. So where are we? We're in Oak Park. Where are we going? I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure. It's an inflection point, I believe. I really believe it's an inflection point, and there's great opportunity for us to do different and to do better. But that remains to be seen.
So how do you think we begin having those hard conversations? And I mean, there are community forums and lots of things, and clearly with the COVID closures and social distancing still happening, there aren't as many avenues for people to engage with each other in some ways, and it's harder to kind of seek them out. So how do we begin facilitating those conversations and having them with each other?
Well, this is one. This is one opportunity. Yeah. Every conversation doesn't have to be more than 5 people, or 50 people, or 500 people. Yeah. What are those conversations? Yeah, I've shared with others that were saying, well, what do we do? What do we do? First thing I would say is engage with someone that doesn't look like you, that doesn't have your history of life and of life. Let's just leave it there. Have those hard and heartfelt conversations. I'm not saying just necessarily, I mean, it might be good. I'm not saying necessarily just pick up a random stranger, but we live in community, Oak Park community. Often we don't know our neighbors. Oak Park is better than that in terms of knowing who our neighbors are, but writ large, we don't know our neighbors well. We may know, oh, that's Joe, or that's Betty, or that's Sam, or whoever, and you wave at them, but that's the extent. It's like, even if they're of a different race, ethnicity, or culture, we don't know them. That's where we need to start, is in order to have those hard conversations, those very difficult and challenging conversations, like with any family, you have to know who you're talking to. You have to know who's part of the conversation, because if we start out with those hard, difficult conversations and we don't have context to have those conversations, you run the risk, not that you don't do it, but you definitely run the risk of it being a yelling match, a series of just a situation of confrontation, talking at each other, not with each other.
Misunderstanding?
If I'm not listening to you, I'm totally misunderstanding. So, a lot of times when we get into conversation, we're just waiting for the person to stop talking, to shut up, so I can say what I want to say. But when you're in relationship, then you are listening to what the person is saying. It's really listening, and listening it's not a passive thing. It's an active thing, and I think I'm as guilty as anybody. Is that you really have to think about, okay, no, I'm going to listen. I'm going to really listen. I'm going to put pause on all of the things I want to say as soon as that person is done speaking, and I want to listen to that person. And as I listen to that person, you create that opportunity to hear things you may not otherwise have heard, or to at least, well, if you've even heard that before, okay, now I really hear you. I hear you. I hear what you're saying. And then I can begin that process, difficult, long, challenging process of responding to whatever it is that's being said. Mm-hmm. That's why we initiated the front porch. And just kind of as an aside, thank you very much, Jessica, for hosting these events. These forums are for the community to allow us that opportunity to get to know one another for such a time as this, when I know Michael Blair, I know Sean Rooney, I know them better than I did before because I heard them speak on the front porch, and then we can begin to have those hard conversations.
I think when things like this happen, I like what you said, just about talking to our neighbors. And fortunately in Oak Park, it isn't hard to find someone different from us, and that's a blessing.
Yeah,
it's one of the things that I really like about this neighborhood, and why we were here in the first place. Getting to know them and hear them and listen to them. I think when we find ourselves in times like this, there feels like there's a push for big, comprehensive action that also doesn't always seem to materialize. But, everyone wants to rush to the big solutions, and I don't know that we get there or even understand what they ought to be if we're not hearing each other and listening to each other, and we don't understand the full context of where we find ourselves and, what culture we're in. And, Oak Park is not South Dakota, and they might need to address this situation differently, and understanding each other and how we love our neighbors here, and really love our neighbors, and not just, put on a show of, let's get along and bring each other cookies. And
cookies are not bad.
No, cookies are wonderful.
And
I appreciate cookies, and sometimes that's the best love you can give, but sometimes we need more than that.
It's funny you say that about cookies. I'm an engineer by vocation, but I also am a pastor and unapologetic follower of Jesus Christ. Table fellowship in the first century was everything.
Yes, it was.
There was a level of equivalency associated with that. That's why when certain folks came together to eat that didn't look like the other folks, it was so outrageous, because how dare these people come together and have fellowship around food? So food became a unifying tool, if you will. Now, I'm not saying let's have a big feast, but First Fridays aren't bad. That's good with all the food trucks that are there, and that becomes a unifying opportunity to get to know one another. But be it food or whatever the catalyzing event that brings us together. When we come together, when we do come together and have those opportunities to converse, that's when we create. Again, it really is about creating opportunity for wonderful things to happen. I can't begin to address or resolve issues that are mutually impacting all of us unless we are all in it and conversing and contributing to the feast, be it a physical food feast or a social feast, it's a housing feast, it's a medical feast, it's those areas. And that's why I love Oak Park the way I do. Oak Park is really, it's Oak Park, and we really should be proud of who we are in terms of community. There is community here that really, I think, leads, not follows, other parts of the city in terms of having those conversations, some of them very difficult when it comes to things like policing, things like housing, things like transportation, things like access to medical care. All of those things, those aren't easy. And we do, as you were saying earlier, we do default to wanting, we live at a time when, be it a sitcom or a television mystery, it wraps up in either 30 minutes or 60 minutes. And we don't like series in that way. It's like, no, we want finality and we want a happy ending. But to have something that at the end of one episode concludes with an untidy ending, that can be frustrating. I guess that's why I don't watch much TV, because because I don't want to devote my time, just says a lot about me. I don't want to devote my time to the next episode. I'd rather devote my time to the next episode of things that are important to Oak Park and other aspects of life that you just know it's going to take a bit. There are certain things that can be resolved, that should be resolved with, as Dr. King said, the fierce urgency of the now. It's like, no, we don't need to wait for certain things, or certain things that need to be dealt with now, not tomorrow, now. But resolving, again, dare I say, we arrived here to this inflection opportunity. It's taken at least 400 plus years to get to this point. And my hope and prayer is that it won't take 400 years to move from this point. But the fact that we are here talking about what is it we can do, that's the start. That is, we're talking.
Yeah.
And hopefully we're listening. So, yeah.
Even before you mentioned 400 years, this is centuries in the making and festering, and occasionally coming to a point where, look, we've fixed it. Let's pat ourselves on the back. And not.
Yeah. It's kind of like repairing a house, which I like to do. It's like, well, if I can paper over, it's like, well, don't, I've got a
bad idea.
Oh, yeah, I've got a leaky tub. I've got a leaky tub, and I know it's one of those tubs that is encased in tile, and this is a good window to look through. It's to get to the leak is going to require ripping out a whole lot of the structure that's there, and I put that off.
Yeah.
For months. It's just a little leak. It's not that bad. It's like, look, it's a waste of water. It's costing me money. It's an irritant. I need to deal with the leaky faucet. And so my wife, she mentioned today, as a matter of fact, she said, I guess the bathroom renovation, we're putting that off. And my first response was, yeah, I guess so. Then I thought about it. It's like, no, we need to fix that. We need to fix that. And I think that's probably a poor example, but at least it's representative of issues that we tend to either ignore, paper over. It's not so bad. It's not so, when you really want to take a bath, it works most of the time, but it's not fixed. And we're talking about much more serious issues of life, not only the quality, but life itself, that have been from lip service to placebos to to symptom management, but never dealing with the issue, the cancer. I've said before, I say now, aspirin will not cure cancer unless somebody has come up with a new formulation. But there's been a lot of aspirin consumed to keep temperature down, to keep inflammation down, but really it does not cure the issues. And if we are serious about addressing the problems that ail us and prevents us from living out the things that are written in our Constitution, in our Bill of Rights, if we are serious about that, then it's going to take an aggressive, dare I say, surgical approach. If I'm dealing with cancer, it might require chemotherapy, it might require radiation, it might require surgery. A lot of those things are unpleasant. But if it's done well, we have the opportunity to cure what ails us.
Do you think we're ready to take that unpleasant road?
What choice do we have? What's the choice? I mean, I like a few movies. I've shared The Untouchables with Kevin Costner and Sean Connery. And when Kevin Costner said he wanted to get Al Capone, Sean Connery asked him in the role he was playing, he said, "Are you prepared to go all the way? Are you prepared to do what is required in order to achieve the objective you're talking about?" And Kevin Costner kept saying, yeah. I want to do it. I want to get him. Well, fast forward towards the end of the movie, Sean Connery is mortally wounded. And as Kevin Costner goes in to tend to him, he grabs him, Sean Connery grabs Kevin Costner by the lapels and pulls him close to him. And he's like, "What are you prepared to do about it?" And then he dies. Reminding him that if you want to do the things you say you want to do, those right things, if you want to do those things that will change the trajectory we've been on, you have to ask and answer. Are you prepared to do it? I can't answer that.
No.
I can answer it for me.
Yeah.
But as a community, Oak Park, we can answer it to the degree we can. The City of Sacramento can answer it to the degree it can. The State of California can answer it to the degree it can. And this country can answer it to the degree it can. But it just seems like, isn't it interesting that the whole world seems to be rising up almost as one and saying, yeah, it's time for change. It's time for a change. I'm on board. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm on board. I'm ready for change. But let's have that conversation so we understand what that change is.
Yeah.
And what that requires, because that change, it's going to be uncomfortable, both for the person that's receiving the change and those that are giving the change, if you will. But dare I say, it's better than the status quo.
Yeah. I mean, healing, like you said, healing is painful. But at some point, yeah, I just hope that all of us, myself included, are willing to push through. You know, it's hard to push through the pain sometimes.
Yeah. Somebody said, I don't know who, but I'll give proper attribution if whoever knows who it is, that pain to our bodies, that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Pain tells us that something's not right.
Something's wrong.
Yeah. It's the absence of pain is not, not to have pain, not the absence of pain, but not to have pain is not good. It's like if I'm not well, I want that pain receptor to cue me that I need to do something. Something's not right. And if we are one, if we are indeed a body, a community, a singular humanity, then if my hand is ailing, then it does no good for me to ignore it, because it could become septic and kill the whole body. So it would only make sense that I need to respond to the pain and do the things necessary to respond to provide the cure so that the body is whole. I guess the $64,000 question might be, so where do we go from here?
Yeah, that was what I was going to ask. So how do we push through the pain? Where do we start?
Somebody keeps saying, no pain, no gain. We understand that when it comes to exercise.
Yes, we do.
I don't know why it seems.
But many of us are not in great shape either.
Okay, all right. I'm not saying anything about me. You don't talk about me, I won't talk about you.
Hey, who said I wasn't talking about me?
No pain, no gain. We are our brother and sister's keeper. Mm-hmm. We are. Whether we acknowledge it or not, we are. And what goes on in your life and your family on the street you live affects me and my family and on the street we live. And we cannot hope to have a society, a country that is whole, that is well, when you have those on the out looking in, and those that are in shutting the door to those that are out. That is not sustainable. That is a sure sign of a unhealthy community. And again, so I can underscore what we have with Oak Park. I am from the business associations to the neighborhood associations, both South Oak Park and Oak Park, the Michael Blairs, the Joni Titheringtons, the Adrian Wrens, the Jessica Alarcons, the Sean Brunies, the people that make Oak Park. I am honored to be just a small, very small part of the conversations that are going on here, and I will do anything and everything within my ability to help facilitate these conversations and push and to add the extra 5 pounds to the dumbbells or whatever to lift to get the body in the condition it needs to be. It's not going to be easy, but it can be done. And again, going back to what we said earlier, what choice do we have? Status quo is not sustainable. It's status quo is not sustainable. So what are we going to do? What are we prepared to do about it? What are we prepared to do about it? And the conversation starts now, starts today. And again, it starts with someone that is not your usual go-to Facebook friends, your social friends, your family, but someone outside of your comfort zone, someone that you know, but you don't know. And to really get to know them in a way that their pain becomes your pain. Their aspirations become your aspirations. That's when you know you have community. When you are concerned about the welfare of someone else. And I'll say this, I'm probably talking too much. There are words that describe what peace is, and peace isn't just the absence of conflict. You can have forced cessation of violence. That doesn't mean peace exists. That's not peace. But peace is the common good for everyone, the welfare for everyone, the commonwealth. That's what peace is, so that you were able to aspire and achieve those things as well as anybody else. And given every opportunity and given every tool necessary to get us to a level of community, peace, and there's a fancy word for it. I can't think of it. Whatever. It's the common peace. Let's just leave it at that. So, yeah.
Common peace. Well, thank you for this conversation. And I think you've inspired me. I will be reaching out to someone who is not in my circle. I'm looking for the opportunity to talk to someone who is different through this time and start building that peace.
Awesome. Bless you. Thank you,
Bless
Jessica.
you.
You're doing a great job. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Thank you.